folks, it's Marlene Devine with Cinderella Sweet Shop, and welcome back to my kitchen. It's been a long time since I've seen you, and boy have I missed you, and I hope you've missed me as much as I've missed you. We have got a full lineup for you today, but I'm gonna take it easy on you because I haven't been here in a while. I don't want to overwhelm you. So I've been thinking, what is the best thing that you guys might want to see? I don't know. So I thought, well, if I was in the grocery store and I was shopping, what am I gonna fix for supper? I have no idea. Money's tight. I mean, people, come on. Groceries are ridiculous. So when I was shopping for groceries this week, I thought, how's the best way we can spend our money? Well, the biggest expense when you go to your grocery store is your protein, which is your meat-based product. So I looked and looked and looked and tried to find something that maybe would be on budget, but would also help you and my family to stretch our money a little bit. So here's where I'm going with that. Today, we are going to do a pork loin. Now, this is a lot of meat. I mean, a lot of meat. If you're feeding 20 to 25 people, this is gonna be a good source of meat for you to put on that table. Now, this looks like a whole lot of meat, and you're thinking, oh, that's pricey. 20 bucks right here, $19.84. When was the last time you could feed 25 people with your protein source at being 20 bucks? This is a good go-to. Now today, we're not gonna cook this whole thing. We are going to cut maybe a third of it, and the rest of it we're gonna save for a different meal. So today on our menu, we're going to have a cranberry orange glazed pork loin with a seasoned rice, honey glazed carrots, balsamic vinaigrette glazed covered Brussels sprouts, and a coconut cream pie. I don't know about you guys, but I can't have a good meal without a dessert. So I'm not a big fan of coconut cream pie, and I'm trying not to eat so much of that stuff. So I'm making my husband's favorite, which is the coconut cream pie. So he'll eat it and I'll watch and just be glad that he enjoys it. So we're gonna take our pork loin, and I'm just gonna guess. So tonight we're gonna have at my house probably 3 to 4 people. And I like to do a little extra. So if I know for sure I'm serving 4, I want to bump that up to say I'm going to serve 6. So I like to do a good rule of thumb because I'm not going to cut these real thick. I'm going to do probably about 3/4 of an inch. So I know I'm going to have 6 servings that I want to plan for. So I'm just going to say 3/4 of an inch. I'm going to want 6 servings. So I'm going to go by my finger rule and measure off 8 servings because I want to have that little extra. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and I'm always going to go 1 over because I have tiny fingers. I'm going to cut it right here. So we have our meat laid out, and we're just going to cut it, and like I said, about 3/4 of an inch. Now you can also get your butcher, or when you go like to the grocery store, usually there's someone in their meat market department that can cut this for you. I choose not to do that simply because I know I'm gonna do different things with it. So I don't want them to cut it for me. I'm gonna bring it home and cut it myself. And some of this I may decide to go ahead and do whole later on in the week. This is a really good thing to do on your smoker if you have a smoker. If you don't have a smoker, just put it on your grill and grill it that way. So our hopes and our plans was for 6 servings. Let's see how close we got. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. This will give about 6 servings. My husband will eat a little bit more than I will, and I like to have a little extra for him to take for his lunch or whatever he may have going on. I've taken my dish, and I'm not going to use a very deep one, just going to go with a little shallow dish here. Don't you just love this old vintage stuff? So I'm going to take my pork, and I'm just going to kindly lay it. The first one is kind of hard to get, so I'm going to lay it kind of flat, and then the rest of them, I'm just going to kind of stand them up a little bit. And I want to do the fat side up so that fat just kind of drips down. And if you're doing your pork on a smoker or in the oven and you choose to do it whole, I always do the fat side up so that fat kind of renders down and gives the rest of our meat a little flavor. So we have our pork and we've got it ready to go. I'm just going to lightly sprinkle it with a little bit of salt, just to kind of give it a little bit of flavor there. And a little bit of pepper. And I like the coarse ground black restaurant style pepper. You can use whatever you want, but I just like that because I like to see that little extra flakiness to it. And another thing I love this stuff right here. It's made by Kinder's. You can get it in a smaller container at Sam's or Walmart or anywhere like that. I'm not promoting this name brand. I just love the way this stuff is. It's got salt, pepper, and garlic in it. And I don't know, it might have some extra stuff in there, but I really, really like it. This is what I would call my all-purpose seasoning. So I'm just going to use this on the top of it and just lightly sprinkle it. And that's it. That's all we're going to do for our pork loin. We're going to put this in the oven. I have it already heated up at about 400. We're going to cook it for about 20 to 30 minutes uncovered, and then we're going to cover it because we want to get some of that steam in there and we want it to build up and tenderize our pork. So 400 degrees for about 30 to 45 minutes. Now we were talking just a little bit ago about the pork and different things that you can do with your pork loin. So I'm going to show you what I'm going to do. I'm not going to cook it today. I'm just going to show you how I'm going to cut it up for another meal for us to have for the end of the week. When I was growing up, my family always killed hogs, and one of the best things that we loved was on hog killing day, my mom and a bunch of our family would get together, and the pork loin, as they were getting it out, or tenderloin is what we called it, we would get it all out and we'd get it ready to put into the freezer. And my mom would cut it in pieces and she'd take her meat mallet out and beat the far out of it. You'd think she was killing somebody. I bet what it was, she was mad at my dad because we had to start early and we ended late. So she was probably taking that aggression out on him and all the work he had her into. So what I like to do is, we love pork tenderloin sandwiches. You can do it grilled, you can do it pan fried, you can do it breaded and fried, however you want to do it. Our favorite way is to grill it, and we have a boat, so if you know me, you know how much I absolutely love the lake. So I like to take this and cut it very thin as you can get. And my knife ain't the sharpest, so I'm gonna cut it about 1/4 of an inch thick. And you're gonna see that is relatively thin. I'm gonna do probably 4 of these, and I'm just gonna show you what I'm gonna do to it to get it ready before I cook it, the day that I do cook it. And you can cook it just like this and it's gonna be perfectly fine. It's gonna be fine. It might be a little bit on the tougher side simply because I prefer my tenderloin sandwiches to be really, really tender. So I'm just going to get it cut here. And again, you'll see it's about 1/4 of an inch thick or 1/8 of an inch there. I don't know, it's about yay thick. So we're just gonna take our pork tenderloin and we're just gonna beat it with the little prongy sides, I don't know what that's called. And we're just beat it down a little bit. And that's gonna be a lot thinner. If you can see through the light, you can see almost through it. I'm just gonna do a quick couple of these. And this is always easier to do. My pork loin, I had it sitting on the counter for probably about 30 minutes, just so it came to a little bit of a room temperature. Your protein source, you always want to start cooking it when it's room temperature. Otherwise, it's a muscle mass. So if you think about it, if your muscles are hot when you get ready to go run or whatever, you want to limber those muscles up so you warm up. Well, that's what you want to do your meat source. You want to warm it up to room temperature. So this is going to be a lot easier done if this is room temperature, and it's going to cook better. So it's nice size there. So I'm not going to do it today, but because I'm not going to cook these today, I don't want to put any seasons or anything on there. I will probably cook these tomorrow for our supper, but at least you kind of see where I'm going with this. You want to beat it down, and when you cook this, it's going to draw up. Again, this is a muscle source, so it's going to draw up a little bit and shrink. So if you think, oh, that's not right, but you think about it, once this cooks, it's going to shrink a little bit. These are really, really good on a hamburger bun or those like hoagie type buns, anything like that. We're just going to season it up. We'll throw it on our grill and grill it. Again, we'll take it to the lake probably. There's a lot of sources here you can use that. We'll take these to the lake, grill them, and it's an easy sandwich. You can cut your pork tenderloin in thin like this and then cut it in slivers, stick it in the skillet with some onions and peppers with a little bit of butter, salt and pepper and garlic, and kind of pan fry it and make an easy quesadilla with it. There's a lot you can do with this. $20, you can get easily for 6 people, easily 3 meals, and you might can even stretch that out to 4. And don't be afraid to freeze it. I do it all the time. I'm gonna slice it up just like I want. I will not put any marinade or anything like that on there because I don't know what I'm gonna do with it. I'll usually slice them up like I did today, about 3/4 of an inch, and then I'll pop them in a vacuum seal bag, vacuum seal them, throw them in the freezer, and it's good to go. And that stuff will thaw out pretty quick. So don't be afraid to freeze your meat. It's a good way to save some money. So remember I told you we were gonna do a cranberry glazed pork loin. So what we're gonna do for that is we're not necessarily gonna get this and put it on our pork loin right now. We'll put it on there when we serve it. So we're gonna take 1 can, and don't you love it, you have to do these upside down. 1 can of whole berry cranberry sauce. In my mind, that was gonna work. Okay. And we're just gonna break it up with this little handy little stirring thing I have. This is called a Danish dough whisk. You don't have to use it for dough. I use it for a lot of things, and I absolutely love it. Cornbread is my absolute favorite to use it for. So we're just gonna stir it up so it's kind of saucy like, and then we are going to add about 1/4 of a cup of brown sugar. And then we have already washed our orange here. I'm just gonna lightly zest it, just so that we get a little bit of that citrus flavor into that. Not gonna do a lot, just a little bit. And I'm gonna save this for our next dish that we have, that little bit of orange zest there. And I want to lightly squeeze some of that. Make sure you don't get your orange seeds in there. This is a navel, so there shouldn't be any. And y'all don't look at my fingernails. I thought about that before I started today. I thought, I just don't have time. Our life is so busy, and I'm sure yours is too. One thing I will do for myself is get my nails done, but I don't always have time. So if you look at these and you think it's past time, girl, I know. I know. So we're just gonna stir this all up, and we're just gonna set it aside and get it ready for when we do serve it. I wanna let that brown sugar just kind of melt a little bit. And you can choose to cook this on the stove, or you can be like me. We're gonna pop it in the microwave. I'm gonna set it in the microwave for about probably 2 minutes, just so that we cook that brown sugar and that cranberry sauce. Everything's already cooked, it's already done, you just gotta heat it up. And by doing that in the microwave, it saves a lot of time. It's gonna make almost like a barbecue sauce consistency, and it's really, really good. So we're just gonna pop it in the microwave for 2 minutes. So our next dish we're gonna do is honey glazed carrots. We're gonna cook these in the oven. That oven is on 400. I'm gonna go ahead and cook it in there. Some people say it's too hot, some people say it's too not. I'm gonna go ahead and put it in there. I do have 2 ovens, so I could turn the other one on, but again, we're trying to save our money a little bit. So I can cook these at 400 degrees and just watch them and make sure that they don't get too brown too quick before they get done. If we see that's gonna happen, simply cover them with some aluminum foil and you're gonna be just fine. So I've taken just a small shallow pan, like a cookie sheet type thing, and I'm gonna put some parchment paper in it. I love to use parchment paper for something like this simply because you don't have all that mess and it doesn't stick and it's not hard to wash up. Yes, I know I'm trying to save some money and this is money, but at the same time, sometimes time is money. So to this, we've got 1 of those large bags of baby carrots, and I've already washed them, and I've taken a half a stick of butter. This is unsalted. So we're just going to put that butter in our pan here. To that, I'm gonna add about a 1/4 cup of honey. I am using a local honey because we're heating in the oven. We're gonna lose our benefits of natural honey, locally grown, but that's okay too. At least I've supported my local friends. So we're gonna take that honey and we're gonna put that in there. And again, I'm gonna go back to this blend here by Kinder's. It's called the blend. It's got a little salt, a little pepper, and a little garlic. We're just gonna sprinkle some of that on there. That's gonna end up being probably about 2 tablespoons. We're just gonna toss this all up. And probably by the time that pork loin is ready to cover, our carrots and our Brussels sprouts that we're gonna do, they're probably gonna be about ready to cover too. So it's all gonna work out. When you're cooking like this for a big bunch of people, always start your first thing is whatever is the most time consuming to cook. In our case today, it's the pork loin. So we wanna start with that first, and then you wanna go in the matter of time, just like that was the first, it's gonna take the longest, these carrots are gonna take longer, and then our Brussels sprouts are gonna take longer. So we've just simply stirred this all together, making sure everything is good and coated, and then we're just gonna dump that onto that pan. Make sure you use your spatula and get all that good butter and honey in there, and then just spread it all out. We're gonna roast these in the oven with our pork loin, and probably it's gonna be about the same amount of time, about 30 to 40 minutes. Our pork loin, we're shooting for about 45 minutes in the oven. These will probably take less, and we'll just judge it. And now, like I said, I do have 2 ovens, so as my food gets done, I'm gonna take it out of the oven and I'm gonna put it in my secondary oven. It has a pilot light because it's gas, and it stays about 100 degrees. So that's a good way to use that. If you're cooking something and you happen to have 2 ovens, use your second oven to keep your food hot. If you don't have a second oven, just be the best you can be. You know, like for this, if I was gonna do it, I'd probably take this pan, cover it in aluminum foil, and then I might put it inside another pan that's a little bit bigger, like a 9 by 13. It's already covered with aluminum foil, and then I'm gonna put like a bath towel on top of it. Something to keep that heat in, so you're keeping that good and hot. Again, utilize what you got. We gotta do what we gotta do, girl. So our next dish we're gonna do today is going to be oven roasted Brussels sprouts. And I just buy these in a bag at Walmart. I prefer, if I've got the time, I prefer to do the fresh ones. Sometimes I don't have time to go with the fresh ones, so I'll get the frozen ones because they do cook quicker. But today we have the time because we've got that 45 minutes in the oven with our pork loin. So I've already taken that bag of Brussels sprouts and I've washed them and I've cut the ends off of them. If you've ever bought Brussels sprouts, you've seen this black ugly spot. Some people say cook it and go on, but I just ain't got it in me. I gotta cut that mess off. So we've already cut that off. To that, we are going to add just a drizzle of olive oil on top of this. And that's probably gonna be about 3 tablespoons. You wanna make sure all those Brussels sprouts get good and coated because that's what's gonna help kind of crisp up those outer leaves on there. So we're gonna add to this, again, our blend mix, and I do use this for everything. Just maybe a tablespoon of that on there. We don't have to have a lot because Brussels sprouts, we're gonna have a star of the show with that. And then I'm gonna take this orange and just a couple of drips of juice on there just to kindly blend it in. We're gonna take our zester and we're gonna zest, get it the right side. We're gonna zest a little bit of this orange peel. You see we're kind of carrying over the citruses into the dishes. So we started out with this orange with our pork loin. That's what our glaze is gonna be. And we're gonna carry that through. Now you can use lemons in this, and a little bit of this acidity from this, the tartness, is going to, I guess you could say, marry with that bitterness from the Brussels sprouts. So you can use any of them you wanna use. Oranges, lemons, limes even. I prefer the oranges or the lemons. I don't care much for the limes in this, just simply because in my mind, a lime is for a margarita. And this ain't no margarita. Again, I got turned around. See, it happens. So we're just gonna use a little bit of this on here just to kind of blend that in a little bit. And we don't have much in there. We're gonna try to hope for probably about 1/8 of a tablespoon. I have bought those fancy little zesters where you just peel it off. I ain't got time for that. I like a little grater like this. It's much, much faster. So we're just gonna put that in there with that. We've already got our blend mix, but I'm gonna do a little bit more black pepper. I'm gonna do a little bit more salt, just a pinch of each one. And then another spice that I found that I really like, and I think I got this one at Sam's too, it's called Sweet Balsamic. And I ain't got my glasses on. I believe it's made by Elizabeth and Eleanor, and I think I got it at Sam's. We're just gonna put a little bit of this on there because it is that balsamic, and it just is so good. Maybe 1/8 of a teaspoon of that as well. Now we're gonna use our hands. We're gonna toss all this up. These are a little harder to coat than those carrots. We wanna make sure by using my hands, I can make sure and feel that all of those Brussels sprouts have a good coating on there. And you notice when we did our carrots, we had a little extra of that juice in there. That's okay, because that's gonna make us a little bit of a glaze to toss those carrots around. We don't necessarily have to have that with this one. So we're just gonna dump all of that onto our pan, and you'll see some of these have come apart. I don't mind that, I ain't gonna be mad about it, because when those cook, they get a little crunchy, and I like that little extra flavor. And you'll see we've got a lot of extra stuff in here. Girl, don't throw that down the sink. That's good stuff. We're just gonna use our hand and get it out and just sprinkle that the best that we can. We've washed our hands so they're good and clean, and we're just gonna put all that on there that we can. Again, we're gonna pop these in that oven that's already set to 400 degrees, and we're shooting for about 30 minutes bake time before we check them to see if we need to cover them. Now when I popped those Brussels sprouts in the oven, I took a little look at our pork loin, and it looks wonderful. When we get ready to cover it, I'm gonna take you back there and show you what it looks like at this point, but it's gonna be the star of our show, I'm afraid. So I told you we were gonna do a balsamic glaze on those Brussels sprouts. You can make it, and it's good, it's time consuming, it makes your house stink, and it's a pain. This right here is my favorite. This brand is called Better Goods. You can get it at Walmart. It is a blood orange balsamic glaze, and that's gonna complement that orange flavor that we put in there with that orange zest. So this is what we're gonna put on there just as we serve it. So remember, Better Goods, orange, blood orange, balsamic. Now the next thing we're gonna do is our dessert. See how quick we're going? We are moving, girl, let me tell you. So the next thing we're gonna do is gonna be our coconut pie. So we are going to always put our dry ingredients in first. So to this, we are going to put, my cheat sheet here, we are going to put 3/4 cup of sugar, just white granulated sugar. To that, we are going to add, I've got this all mixed up, 1/4 cup of cornstarch. You can use flour. My mother always used flour, but I like cornstarch better because I feel like it makes it more stable. And you know, it gives it more structure than that flour does. We're gonna add 1/4 teaspoon of salt. So there's our dry ingredients. We're gonna stir that together. I always will stir my flour and my sugar together because that's gonna keep it from clumping. It's almost like that flour wraps itself around that sugar. So we've got that in there. To this, we are going to add 1 whole can of coconut milk. You can use whole milk, you can use whatever you want to, half and half, whatever. I like the coconut milk because that just enhances that coconut flavor. I mean, we are making a coconut cream pie, so I'm gonna use 1 whole can of this coconut milk, and always shake it up because it tends to separate and settle. Now, it's not cream of coconut. No, it is a milk. I buy it in a can because it has a better shelf life. You can buy it in the refrigerator section at Walmart or your grocery store. Coconut milk, sometimes people can't have lactose, so they have to drink coconut milk, almond milk, soy milk, whatever, and you can buy it refrigerated. I buy it in the can because I may not want to make it today or tomorrow or even a week from now. So I always buy it in a can because it has a better shelf life. So we're just going to open this up, always do 2, and pour that in there. And you can see when you get a close-up look at it, it has a waxy or a shiny look to it. That's that fat protein from that coconut. And then to that, we are going to add 4 egg yolks. We're gonna save our egg whites for our meringue. So we've got that in there. We're gonna stir that up. Again, to that, 1 cup of whole milk. When I drink milk, I drink 2% because I prefer it better. But when I'm baking, I'm not gonna go and cut back on that. I'm gonna use whole milk, and here's why. If you've ever made a meringue pie or even a banana pudding or anything like that, sometimes you notice it just doesn't set up. It may not be thick, it may not be stable, and sometimes it weeps. That's because if you don't use a full fat milk, then you're getting mostly water, or the fat's been stripped out of it. So always go with whole milk or anything like that. The more fat, the better it's gonna be. I mean, you never seen a skinny cake. Skinny cake ain't good. Go with the fat. So we're just gonna stir this up really, really good. And you'll see we have a few other things here left. We're not gonna add these in right now. These we're gonna add in when it's done. We have 2 tablespoons of butter. I'm using unsalted butter. And we've got 1 cup of shredded coconut. We're not gonna put these in until the very end. And we have 1 tablespoon of coconut extract. Now my mama always used vanilla. It ain't a vanilla pie, honey. It's coconut. So we're gonna go with coconut. And you'll see I have a little vanilla here. That's for our meringue, and some coconut to go on top. So we're gonna put that aside and get that ready for our next go around. Come on back here with me and we'll cook it on the stove. Make sure when you're making your filling for your pie, my pan is Teflon coated, so I'm gonna use a coated whisk. But make sure you stir it. You don't have to stir it all the time. In my mind, I have to, because if I stop, my brain's gonna go some other direction and I might forget to stir it and it's gonna stick. So I always will make myself stand back here and stir it. And some people will say, well, you should have tempered those eggs. I've done it both ways, and as long as I feel like as long as I'm stirring it the whole time, I'm getting it incorporated and it's not scrambling those eggs, it's not clumping up, it's not doing nothing. Now you will notice if you don't separate your egg whites from your yolks good, you'll notice you'll get like a white chunk in there. That's because you've gotten that membrane from your egg whites. And when we separated them today, I made sure and got all that off of there the best I could. I think the membranes are probably still in the egg whites. I'll probably pull them out because I don't like them. This is where it takes a long time. Okay, this is about the consistency you want to see, because when this cools down, remember we've used cornstarch. This is going to get thicker as it gets cooler. So this is about the consistency you want. You want it to be about like an instant pudding, but we ain't instant. Now to this, we're going to bring it to the counter and we are going to add our 2 tablespoons of butter. And again, it's unsalted. I always use unsalted when I'm baking. We've already put the salt in there when we were using our recipe earlier. So we're going to stir that up till that butter melts really good. And I don't know why, but I always do this too at the very end. That's what my mama always told me to do, and that's what I'm gonna do. We're gonna get that good and incorporated and the butter's melted. To that, we're gonna add our coconut extract, and that is 1 tablespoon of coconut extract. I wish you could smell this. It smells like Hawaiian Tropic. Yum. Now to this mixture, we are going to chunk in our shredded coconut. And that's 1 cup. If you want more, add more. If you like less, add less. I have a friend that doesn't like the texture of coconut, so when she does hers, she puts hers in her blender and just kind of chops it up a little bit, makes it a little finer, and she doesn't use very much of it at all. I probably would like that because I don't like the texture of coconut, but I love the flavor. Again, I know that's weird. I have a little piece of toasted coconut in here. That's not going to be pretty. Now we've already blind baked our pie crust, and I cheated today because we're in a time crunch. I just did a rollout, and sometimes I'll go in there and fold it over. Because I used a bigger pan today, I didn't have the extra, so I'll just kind of leave it a little rustic like that and put that right on top of it. Y'all got these too, don't you? The burnt oven things, because you touch the oven rack. I probably have more that's burnt that's not burnt. It's okay, we all got them. So we're just gonna pour this in. Now, I will tell you, I prefer when I'm doing a cream pie like this, coconut, lemon, caramel, chocolate, anything like that, and even banana pudding, I prefer to mix and cook my filling the day before. And here's why. You've ever cut into a coconut pie or chocolate pie and it's runny? If you do it the day before and you put it in the refrigerator, you know it's going to be thick or not thick. So it's foolproof. But we didn't have time for that, and if I did it the day before, y'all couldn't see me do it. So we're just going to take this and smooth it around. Now, this is already cooked. It's already done. Here's where our twist gets a little bit better for you. We are going to put a meringue on this, but we're not going to do your typical meringue. We're going to do an Italian meringue. Italian meringue is cooked on the stove versus you want to do all your cooking in the oven. So we're going to cook it on the stove and we're going to put it on here. We will end up putting it in the oven just to kind of brown the top of it a little bit and to crisp up this coconut we're going to put on there. Here's why I prefer an Italian meringue versus an old-fashioned cow slobber meringue. Because if you use fresh eggs, they're going to liquefy. They're going to weep, they're going to run. When you cut into it, it's going to fall. Same goes with eggs that are maybe fresh from the store. They've been a few days, but you know, they tend to be a little watery. Anything like that, just, they're not the same. Foolproof way to keep your meringue from falling or weeping or running is to do an Italian meringue. Again, it's cooked on the stove, finished off in the oven. You don't have to finish it off in the oven. I do because to me, I'm a visual kind of person. I want to see that little bit of toasting on the top. And trust me, it's so much better. Because we are wanting this to kind of cool down a little bit, I'm going to pop this in the freezer to help cool it down so that when we do go to serve it and cut it here in a little bit, it'll be cooled down and you can see what it looks like. You can see already it's starting to thicken up. So we're just going to pop it in the freezer while we finish the rest. We're going to check on our pork loin so we can see what that looks like. And it looks great, absolutely great. This is where we're going to cover it. As you'll see, our Brussels sprouts have already started to kind of brown up. We're going to wrap them too. And our carrots, they're starting to do the same thing. We're going to pop this back in the oven. Still, it's on 400. And it's not really going to be tightly covered, but more just loosely covered. We're just really just kind of shielding it from the heat. And those Brussels sprouts will cook a little faster than the carrots or the rest of that pork loin. So in about 15 minutes, we're to come out and put them in our warm oven to keep them hot. Now, you notice I don't set a timer. Never do. I go by smell. I've had COVID 3 times, and trust me, the cooking was not good that time. But I'm going by smell and also go by listening. So if I'm baking a cake, I'm going to smell it. And I know that smell, so I know it's about ready to come out. I'm going to pull that cake out. I'm going to listen to it. You know, like Rice Krispie cereal, it pops. Your cake will pop if it's still got moisture in it. You don't want it to not be popping, but you don't want it to be popping a lot. Just a slow pop, not like pop, 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 pop. Just more like a pop, pop, pop. That tells you it's still got moisture in it. If you don't hear that, then you know that cake's going to be dry. So that's a little thing you can listen to. I always do stick a toothpick in it just to make sure, but nose first. So now we're going to do our rice to go with our pork. And I'm going to tell you, a little trick I have learned throughout the years. I love rice, but cooking rice can be tricky. If you use regular rice, like a long grain rice, jasmine, balsamic, anything like that, you've ever done it, you know you need to rinse it and rinse it and rinse it. And it is a pain. Because trust me, if you don't rinse it good, it's going to be sticky. I don't like that. So a few years ago, by mistake, I bought parboiled rice. And this is what it'll say, parboiled long grain rice. I always cut that off so I know what it is. And I always cut the instructions off and put that on my lid so I don't forget what to do. So we are going to use, just like it says, I gotta have my glasses. We are going to do 2 cups of water to 1 cup of rice. And that gives us your normal servings, which is going to be for about 2 to 3 people, and we're going to have a few extra. So we are going to do 4 cups of liquid to 2 cups of rice. So we're going to do our rice first. There's 1, 2, and because we are doing the parboiled, we don't have to rinse it. It's already done for us. All that's done. And trust me, this is so much better than instant rice. If you've ever went this route, you're not ever going to go back to instant rice again. It's like an instant potato. Sometimes you have to do it, but if you don't have to, don't do it. So we've got 2 cups of rice, and we're going to use 4 cups of liquid. Now, I prefer to do chicken stock to my liquid or vegetable stock because we're using the pork as our protein. We don't want to use beef because that's going to be too strong. So I'm going to go with chicken stock. We want 2 cups of liquid. This is going to be our main liquid, is this right here. We're going to do 4 cups. I'm sorry, I said 2, we're going to do 4. This is going to get us pretty close. There you go. One of these is 4 cups exactly. 4 cups of liquid. And if you don't have chicken, don't worry about it. You can use whatever you got, whether it's vegetable or if you don't have chicken, just do water and some bouillon cubes. You want that extra flavor. The more flavor you put in your rice while you're cooking it, the more flavor it's going to hold. So we've got our 2 tablespoons of butter. We got our chicken stock, and I'm going to go back in with that blend that I use because it's just good, y'all. I'm telling you. If you've never tried it, get you some. And it calls for salt, but I'm not going to use as much salt. I'm just going to put some of this in my hand. And that's about probably a tablespoon, 2 tablespoons. So if you're doing 1 serving, you're going to do 1 cup of rice to 2 cups of liquid and 1 tablespoon of salt. But we're doing 2. So we're going to do 2 cups of rice to 4 cups of liquid, 2 tablespoons of butter, and 2 tablespoons of our salt blend. So we're going to pop that in there. And I'm not sure how much salt that's going to have to it because we try to cut back on it when we did our seasoning. So we didn't add that in there. So we're going to do that and then a pinch of regular pepper. Again, that has it all in there, but it's kind of condensed down because it's got other seasonings in there as well. And to that, I'm going to just dump this, about half of this container of mushrooms in there, about so. We're going to take this back in the back and put it on the stove. Now I'll tell you, what I like to do is bring it to a boil and then cover it with the lid and turn it off and let it set for about 20-25 minutes. So we're going to pop this back here and let it boil. Okay, so now's when we're going to start our Italian meringue. So to this pan, this is what we're going to cook on the stove. I'm going to separate what we're not cooking and put it over here. On the stove, we're going to take 1 cup of sugar. Again, that's just granulated sugar, to a 1/2 cup of water. And I do like to do just a pinch of salt. Now, most recipes don't call for this, but I did this a few years ago. Added this to my meringue when I'm cooking it is Karo syrup or just a white light corn syrup. I like it because to me, in my mind, it acts as a stabilizer. That gives your meringue a little bit more stability. You don't want a lot because you've already got your sugar water mixture. I'm going to say about 2 tablespoons is what I put in there. I just eyeball it. We're going to take this to the back and we are going to cook it to a syrup. But while that's getting ready, we're going to get our egg whites going. Those, we're going to take our 4 egg whites and another pinch of salt. Not a big pinch, just a little pinch. Put that in there. That also, in my mind, acts as a stabilizer. And to that is, make sure I got this right, half a teaspoon of cream of tartar. Now what that does is that too acts as a stabilizer and gets everything nice and fluffy. We're just gonna turn this on and let it go. We're just gonna stir our rice while we're back here. And by cooking those mushrooms in here with it, you're gonna flavor that rice. And to me, it's a game changer. We're gonna cook this sugar water up to 240 degrees. This takes a while. Now our rice is starting to boil. I'm gonna let it boil for about a minute and then I'm gonna shut it off. So we've shut it off and we're just gonna take a lid and set it right on top of it. This one is a little bit bigger than the pot and I'm good with that because I want it to vent a little bit. Always keep me a little thermometer back here so I can kind of gauge to see how my temperature's going. Now looking at it, I know we're not there. We want it to be like a thick syrup, almost the consistency of that Karo syrup that we put in here. And by eye, I know we're not there, but just to be on the safe side, I'm gonna take a check and keep a check on it. We're at about 218 degrees, so we're not far. And let me tell you, this stuff is gonna go quick from that 218 to 240. It's gonna cook quick and it's gonna get thick quick. So it gets kind of like an amber color and that's gonna be another key for me to know we're about there. This won't take very long at all for it to get up there at that correct temperature. I'm gonna say probably 7 minutes. We've already been probably 3 to 4 minutes. When you're testing your temperature, do not put it at the bottom of that pan. You want to hold it up just a little bit. You don't want to touch the bottom because that bottom's hotter. You don't want to get a fake reading. We've gone up to about 223 degrees, and that's been about a minute. So that kind of judges you and lets you know about how quick that's going to cook. Now I am using gas. If you're going to be using like a glass top electric stove, it's going to take you a little longer because that inductions, it gets hotter and cooler. That's why I like gas, because it's a good steady temperature and it's quicker. Starting to see a little bit of that amber color come in, not a lot, just a little bit. It's still thin, but it's gotten thicker. And you'll notice I'm stirring it real good right before I check my temperature. And again, I'm keeping that up off the bottom. Are shooting for 240 and we're at 228. So see, it's coming pretty quick. Now while this cooks a little bit, I'm gonna step up here and check the microwave for our cranberry glaze. It's cooked already for 2 minutes, but we're getting near to the end. I wanna make sure if it doesn't need just a little bit, I'm not gonna walk away for very long because this is going quick. While I was up there, I put it back on for 2 more minutes. That's gonna give us 4 minutes. And I kicked those egg whites up a little bit because we want them to be nice and fluffy when we pour this in. We're at 240, so we're gonna shut it off. You see what we got? A nice hint of amber, and you can see it's about the consistency of that Karo syrup. We're gonna slowly pour this in a little at a time, and I like to go just to the side of the bowl. And you'll see this will make these egg whites fall just a little bit. And then they'll fluff back up. Now before this goes too much further, I'm going to take my little spatula here and I'm going to get the sides good, because as we were pouring that in, that sugar syrup water kind of splashes up on the side, and we want to make good use of all that we can. And this kind of helps me judge how thick we're getting with it. Now before we go too far, I'm going to slow it down a little bit and add our vanilla. And this is about a half a teaspoon of vanilla. Now I don't know if you can hear the difference in this. When I'm going to turn it back on and explain to you what I'm hearing. I'm hearing a kind of like if you've had a blowout on a tire, you hear it go. That's what I'm hearing. That tells me we're at the right consistency. And this looks about like marshmallow cream. So I'm going to turn it on. You listen to it. You hear it? That tells you that you're ready. That's another thing. You don't have to go by a clock, but you don't need to forget about it either. When you're cooking, you can smell and you can listen. Those two senses are going to be your best friend. It's going to tell you when things are ready, sometimes before a timer does. Because, again, ovens cook differently. That oven back there is hotter. So your oven might take you an hour, where mine's going to take me 45 minutes. Again, listening to those things is going to tell you, and if you listen, and do set a timer, if you want to. I don't, but if you want to, do. That's going to keep you from burning your stuff. And look at that. Isn't that beautiful? That's what we want to look for, nice and firm. So we're just going to take it and just drop it on our pie. I got it out of the freezer, and I can tell when it's cut, it's going to be about right. Now, I worked at Country Crossroads years and years ago, and they were known for their mile-high meringue pies. They didn't do theirs this way, but let me tell you, those meringues were tall. I always loved helping to make those. Now, Phyllis Henson, I worked for them when they owned it. Phyllis always did the pies. I guess she just loved doing it, or maybe she wanted to do them. She always did the pies, but occasionally she would let me help, and I don't know, but I just loved it. There's something about piling that up there, I guess, that I always liked. I always start from the center, because that's how Phyllis taught me. Pile it up in the middle. And then we're just going to smash it down just enough and move it around and seal the edges. We want to seal those edges in. That's what gives you that mile-high look. That's because if you pull it all down and smooth it around, you're losing it. You want to make sure you have some peaks in there. That's what kind of gives it that fluffy look. And I like to just go around and just kind of dabble it up like that. Take this coconut that we had earlier and just drizzle a little bit of it over the top. Now, I really like this with chocolate, and with chocolate, I'm not going to cook it as long because I don't have to worry about toasting the coconut. I'm just gonna put it in there just to give it a little bit of color. And then like if I'm doing a shower or something, I'm gonna grate some chocolate on top of it so people know it's chocolate pie. And if I'm doing lemon, that's when I'm gonna use my lemon zester after it's done and zest that lemon peel on top of it. So it's a visual, so people know you're getting lemon, or you're getting chocolate, or you're getting coconut. So we're gonna come back here in the back and I'm gonna take those carrots and those Brussels sprouts out of the oven while we pop this in. We're gonna move it to the other oven. It's turned off, but it has a pilot light, so it's gonna be about 115 degrees, so it's gonna keep all of our food warm while this finishes off. I'm gonna leave those carrots in there because they need just a little bit longer. These aren't gonna go in there for very long because it's already cooked. We're really just wanting to kindly brown it a little bit. While we're back here, we're gonna take a look at our rice. Now what you'll see me do here is I'm turning that back on. Because we've put these mushrooms in here, they have a little bit of water. So we may have added a little extra water to that with those mushrooms. So I'm gonna turn it back on and bring it back up to a boil and watch it go that route. But as you can see, it's a little soupy looking. That's normal. That rice is not done yet. If you ever have too much liquid in your rice, you can always do it like this. If you don't have enough, you can always add more. Rice is not as tricky as most people think. It's how you let it intimidate you. I personally would rather it be a little bit too wet than to be sticky. I don't do sticky rice. I don't like it. I've had a lot that I've made, but I don't like it. And I can see it's cooking down just like I want it to. I'm gonna let it go for just a few more minutes. And I'm gonna check on this pie. Yep, we got good color coming to it. I'm gonna rotate it around because the back gets hotter than the front. Now because this is already cooked, you can take a torch to it and brown it just a little bit if you want to. I've done that too instead of putting it back in the oven. Okay. Now some of our carrots have gotten a little brown. I don't mind that because I do like them a little bit that way. I'm just gonna cover them back up and keep them in this oven here that's already hot because they're pretty close to being done. We just want to keep them hot for just a little bit longer. And you'll see our pork loin is just about there. Oh, that's hot. Tell you what, I think we're gonna go ahead and take that out. I always let my meat set for about 5 to 7 minutes before I serve it. What that does is, as you see here, we've got some juices here. By letting it set, you're letting it rest. Again, it's a muscle, so you're letting that kindly loosen up instead of being tightened up, letting it loosen up, and all those juices are gonna go back into that meat. So we're just gonna leave it right back here and let it set. Now, if that was a grilled steak, I'm covering it because we want it to tint. But that's been tinted, it doesn't have to. We're just gonna let it set for just a few minutes. This is our rice, it's done. See a while ago it was soupy looking, but it's not now. It's just right, nice and moist. We're gonna scoop some of this onto our plate here. I use these things for everything. They're not just for spreading icing. So I'm gonna take this pork and I'm gonna try to pick it up piece by piece so we can separate it. And that glaze, this is our cranberry glaze that we had in the microwave. I'm just going to spoon just a little bit on each piece as I lay it down. I'll turn you around so you can see. I'm starting with the end that we put in first because that's how it was in the pan and that's how I want it to be on my plate here. Now that's all I'm going to put on this one. Just want you to kind of see what it looks like. And we're going to take our carrots up. And you don't have to cook your carrots as long as we did, but I do kind of like that little bit of brownness to it. Kind of gives it more of a roasted feel. Don't spill it. We like our carrots a little bit more done. I don't like them crunchy. You might, and that's great. Everybody has their own. We don't like them crunchy. We want them to be nice and done. And you've seen me wipe that counter off 40,000 times, so you know it's clean. And you've probably not seen me wash my hands, but I've washed them about 40 million times too. Now you can do this with sweet potatoes. Those are really good made like this. And somebody told me that they've done something like this using turnips and even radishes. Turnips, can't go it. They're too bitter for me. But now radish, that might be something I try one day. I get excited for the brown leaves of the Brussels sprouts. Now at this point, if you choose to, you can take almond slivers and put on here. You can do Parmesan cheese. If I'm gonna do Parmesan cheese and almond slivers, I'm not gonna do the blood orange balsamic, but I want that with it today, so I'm leaving those off. And my husband Todd, he does not like Brussels sprouts, so these are all for me. Just to show you what we're eating tonight, I'm gonna put a little of this on my plate so you can see what it tastes like. We're just gonna lightly drizzle. You'll see it's a little thick, it's dark in color. Just a little bit of that over our Brussels sprouts. Now we're gonna dig in. Make sure you get some of that cranberry glaze. It makes me feel like Thanksgiving. You have a little bit of sweet from that honey. They're still a little crunchy. Now, if you want them sweeter, I would probably just drizzle some more honey on top of that. This is my favorite. That blood orange complements it all together. Try this. They make this in a fig and a regular balsamic. That's what I've seen. They might make different flavors. To me, in the fig would be really good on top of just the pork loin without the cranberry glaze on it. If you wanted to try that, that would be really good. Fig kind of complements that pork. So there we have, this is our main meal. There's that. All right, the first piece is always so hard to get out. We have a whole lot of meringue on there. It's nice and fluffy still. It didn't weep, it didn't cry or any of that good business. Nice and fluffy. Our crisp crust is still flaky. I don't like coconut, but I love the flavor. And by adding that extract and using coconut milk, it knocks it out of the ballpark. I don't like coconut at all. This, I could eat. I could. So there you have it. Meals on a budget. We've still got that pork loin for probably 2 more meals in the refrigerator. We have a pie for dessert. We have a good hearty meal. And we've not spent a whole lot of money. I'm guessing off the top of my head for this meal alone, 1/3 of the cost was going to be from that meat. That's where your biggest expense is. That was $20 total. So we're going to say probably $7 for our meat, maybe $3, probably $4 closer to for our rice, maybe $3 for our carrots, and $3 for this. And for the pie, I'm going to guess maybe $7 to $10. Because your expense is going to be your coconut, it's going to be your coconut milk, and you know, just your sugar and your butter and all that. So this whole meal alone, give or take a few dollars, maybe $23, $24 out of pocket, just for ingredients. People, we have to shop smart, and we have to cook smart. So at my house on Mondays, we have meal prep Mondays. When my husband works, I'll get in the kitchen, and one Monday a month, I will make 4 or 5 meals like this, one day. And then I take it and I put it in individual bowls with a rubber seal. I let it come to room temperature, and then I freeze them. So when he goes to work Monday through Friday, he's getting a good hearty meal, because this is 25 bucks. Say he don't take the pie. He's, for 25 bucks, divide that into 6 servings, because remember we went on 6. That's what, $4 a piece for your meals? You can't even get McDonald's for $4. And this is so much better for you. It tastes better, and it's going to get you through the day better. So use your head, think about your back pocket, think about your time, and give your family a good hearty meal. It's not hard to make. It's not. I mean, start to finish, we're at about 2.5 hours on all of this. And that's not bad. And we still, for 2 people, 3 people maybe, you're going to eat supper tonight and have a lunch for tomorrow. So that's not bad. 6 servings for 25 bucks. And Todd Devine's going to have pie for days. Guys, thank you so much for coming and cooking with me today. I have missed you so much, but don't worry, we're going to be back soon. Next time we film, I'm going to have a special guest. I'm not going to tell you today who it is, but it's going to be a very, very special guest to me, and I hope you enjoy cooking with them as much as I'm going to. Until then, get in your kitchen, grocery shop, plan your meals, feed your family, but most importantly, eat together. Nobody goes to bed at my house without a meal together, and I hope you don't either. See you next time.